Hi, my name is Jessica Aldridge, and today we're going to be talking about Pride and Prejudice and the best version of the story. Warning though, there are spoilers ahead, so if you haven't read Jane Austen's novel that she wrote in the early 1800s, well, you're going to get some spoilers. And if you haven't read it by now, that's too bad. We're going to talk about it anyway. So without further ado, here's a summarization of Pride and Prejudice from schmoops.com. Mrs. Bennet has 5 unmarried daughters. This is important because if they're still unmarried by the time their father dies, his estate passes directly to the closest male heir. Mr. Bingley likes Jane, the eldest Bennet daughter, but his friend Mr. Darcy has convinced him that she is beneath him, so Bingley breaks it off. Mr. Darcy and Mr. Collins fall in love with Lizzie, the second eldest Bennet sister. Elizabeth turns down Mr. Collins' proposal, and her best friend Charlotte Lucas scoops him up. With Mr. Bennet's permission, Lydia, the youngest Bennet sister, follows Officer Sir Brighton and elopes with Mr. Wickham, a military officer. Mr. Darcy reveals the truth that Wickham is a gambling liar. Now Lizzie likes Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy saves the Bennet family honor by paying off the Wickham family debts. In exchange, Wickham is to marry Lydia. In the end, Mr. Darcy gets over himself and marries Lizzie. We're going to be talking about 2 adaptations of the many adaptations of Pride and Prejudice. So let's get started, shall we? We're going to be talking about the 2005 version from Focus Features with a 7.8 out of 10 critic score from imdb.com. We'll also be talking about the BBC miniseries from 1995 with a 9 out of 10 critic score from imdb.com. We'll compare them on characters, historical accuracy, story accuracy, general impression, and I'll tell you why I think this thesis works. And my thesis is that the 2005 adaptation is better overall over any other adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. So let's start by comparing them on characters. Elizabeth, in the book, is smart and witty. She has no intention of marrying except for the deepest kind of love. She loves to read, and she easily matches wits with the prideful and haughty Mr. Darcy. In the 1995 version, she's played by Jennifer Eel. She plays her very soft-spoken, genteel, smart, and she has a lot of depth of character. She's also very quick-witted. She often is apologetic, though, and retreats back to polite acquaintance. She follows the ideologies of the times, and she's very predictable as for the time and era that this story takes place. In the 2005 version, she's played by Keira Knightley, who plays her as passionate and earthy and really down-to-earth and grounded. She's witty and smart and believably elegant when it comes to dancing during balls, and is also very quick to defend her family very passionately. She easily puts Darcy in her place. I think the 2005 version, it's easy to tell that women relate to the 2005 version more than the 1995 version because they can see themselves in the passionate and confident, independent woman that Elizabeth Darcy is portrayed as in the 2005 version. In the book, Mr. Darcy is portrayed as prideful, quiet, and a little antisocial, extremely loyal and protective of those he cares about, wealthy, and not bad on the eyes. In the films, we have Matthew Macfadyen in the 2005 version and Colin Firth in the 1995 version, and you can never really go wrong with Colin Firth. Both of them portray Mr. Darcy as prideful, quiet, antisocial, extremely loyal, and protective of those he cares about, wealthy, and not bad on the eyes. As you can see, there's really only one way to portray Mr. Darcy from the books, and that's usually loyal, a little antisocial, and not bad on the eyes. So I think in this case, both of the adaptations get this pretty correct. There's a lot more characters that I could go into, but it would take a lot longer to talk about why they do and don't work. Overall, the cast from the 1995 version are extreme characters. You can't identify these people in your life. They're extreme and they feel fictional. The cast from the 2005 version feel like people that you could identify in your real life. You could easily point out that that is a person that you might know. It feels like something that you could step into from your life to their life. Historical accuracy is a little different. Here's a quote from cleosci.edu talking about these 2 adaptations in comparison. The earlier production of Pride and Prejudice adheres to a more historical 18th century England. The music in the 1995 production better follows a Baroque style of music, and the fashions better represent the characters of the time period. So, as you can see, the 1995 version actually gets the historical accuracy more correct. But I'll tell you why I think the 2005 version might be okay doing what they do. So let's talk about storyline accuracy. Because the 1995 version is a mini-series, they have a lot more time to give you the correct amount of characters, and the dialogue is directly taken from the book. Really, they could have pulled lines directly from the book and made it into their own script. They have the ability to flesh out characters and the storyline more thoroughly because of the hour-long format that it takes place in. There are 6 episodes in the mini-series, and each is an hour long. The 2005 version has a bit of a time constraint issue. So they have to take artistic liberties in writing, and there are characters missing, or sometimes they're just completely replaced. Characters and events are generated quickly, so it leaves you having to catch up because there isn't time to develop characters and events slowly so that you can just kind of accept it as it is. Overall, let's talk about the general impression. In the 1995 version, it's very pristine, very clean, and it feels very fictional and pragmatic. However, in the 2005 version, it's gritty, real, and romantic. There's a difference between fictional and feeling like you could step into this story yourself and identify easily with the characters. So when we compared the 1995 version to the 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, we compared them with characters, historical accuracy, and story accuracy, as well as a general impression. So let me tell you why I think this thesis works. The 2005 version has a general relatability. It's very down to earth and very romantic. However, where there might be points won for the 1995 version on cleanliness and historical accuracy, it doesn't make you want to come back because it appeals to your pathos sensibilities. In fact, some of us have watched the 1995 version once, and it's been more than enough. So, thank you so much for your time and hearing about Pride and Prejudice and the best version of the story.
6:30.